Welcome everyone to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, April 18th, 2021. As with all Space Weeks, this is a live Q&A session, so if you have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the chat. Just make sure to tag my name, Raw Space, so that we're sure to see them. Okay, last week we got some big news a couple days ago. NASA announced that they have chosen SpaceX to land the next humans on the moon. 4 Artemis astronauts will launch on an SLS rocket as planned, then enter lunar orbit in their Orion spacecraft. 2 of the astronauts will then transfer to SpaceX's HLS Starship that is for a week-long stay on the lunar surface. HLS stands for Human Landing System. That's NASA's term for whatever lander will be used to bring people to the surface of the moon. This will be a version of Starship specifically designed to land on the moon. It'll include 2 airlocks and a spacious cabin. The HLS contract is worth $2.89 billion to SpaceX. So this is big news. Now, we've seen, the reveal of the Blue Origin, Blue Moon lander. I don't recall if there are any other firm proposals for lunar landers, but this one kind of came out of the blue for me. I was not anticipating this, but it's great news, and it's also a vote of confidence. I guess we can consider this a vote of confidence that NASA has in SpaceX's ability to deliver on the promise of Starship. Despite the difficulties that we've been witnessing in the development process of that vehicle, SpaceX is sufficiently pleased with NASA is sufficiently pleased with SpaceX's progress, not only on Starship but also in the success of their Crew Dragon and their Falcon 9 Crew Dragon launch system that they've been using, that they awarded SpaceX the contract for HLS. That's amazing. Back down here on Earth, last Wednesday, Blue Origin had their 15th launch of a New Shepard suborbital rocket. There were no scientific or customer payloads this time. It was a test flight as they prepare to launch humans for the first time, perhaps later this year. Prior to launch, they did a wet dress rehearsal. This is sped up 2 times. It's a little dramatic there. They did a wet dress rehearsal where 4 Blue Origin employees simulated the astronaut experience that future customers will have. They drove out to the rocket, ascended the launch tower. 2 of them entered the crew capsule, closed the hatch, and conducted a comms check before getting back out. It's called a wet dress rehearsal because the rocket was full of fuel at the time. Whee! So let's go ahead and check out that launch real quick.
Guidance internal. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1.
And we have liftoff. Go, New Shepard, go.
Love those drone shots. So as with all New Shepard launches, which is of course a small suborbital rocket, very unique design, it ascends straight up to an altitude of approximately 105 kilometers, which is just past the Kármán line, which is the internationally recognized boundary of space. And the crew capsule at the top there detaches from the booster. The booster descends back down to propulsively land on the landing pad a couple miles away. And
So far
Let's see. Here we go. Let's watch the landing. Check this out.
You want to be able to flip it around nice and quickly. So there you see the aft fins. We also call them the pie fins because they're shaped like pie wedges. Engine to relight. There it goes. Landing gear deployed. Oh, look at that smooth landing. And touchdown. Welcome back, new Shepard.
And the crew capsule then descends down to land here's some on parachutes with a brief propulsive burst to cushion the landing. Looks like it looks like it hits hard, but it actually does have a brief burst of retro thruster to cushion the landing. Yeah, see. That was actually a pretty good view. Texas is exceptionally dusty, I must say. So, then on Friday, oops. ISS Expedition 64 crew members Kate Rubins, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Sergei Kudzverchkov departed the space station in their Soyuz MS-17 spacecraft, deorbited and landed safely in Kazakhstan, near the city of Zhezkazgan, 100 miles or so, a couple hundred miles, I guess, from Baikonur. I don't remember the exact distance. But there they are leaving the station, and here they are descending on the Soyuz's parachute. It's interesting, as it came down, you could see the parachute sort of pulsing or flexing as as fabric will do in the air. And then this should take us straight to the extraction of Kate Rubins.
And here's our second crew member.
Okay.
So, I can't recall off the top of my head when Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley returned to splashdown in their SpaceX Crew Dragon module, or spacecraft, whether they, like, what was the sort of ambulatory abilities of the astronauts as they exited the craft, because the Russian procedure is basically to carry the cosmonauts and astronauts down from the capsule and put them in a chair and, you know, basically, you know, carry them off, cart them off, and you know, because they've been in space for 6 months in zero gravity, and I am not sure, like, can they actually walk, or are they told not to? I'm not actually sure. So maybe I could go back and watch the demo 2 splashdown footage to see that. Then on Friday, so they returned safely, congratulations. Then on Friday, also on Friday, the Mars Ingenuity helicopter successfully completed a high-speed spin-up test, paving the way for its first flight. It attempted the same rotor test the week before, but that test was cut short due to a timing glitch that required a flight software update. This short video is from a wiggle test on April 8th, prior to the first spin-up test. For a sense of scale, each of those rotors measures 4 feet or 1.2 meters from tip to tip. So it's a fairly wide craft, and also very light. Now, moving ahead to this week. On Monday, April 19th, that is tomorrow, at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, 10:15 GMT, is coverage of Ingenuity's first flight on Mars. Maybe. Like a rocket launch, NASA might decide to further delay Ingenuity's flight for any number of reasons, a Mars scrub, if you will. But hopefully everything goes as planned tomorrow morning. Ingenuity is actually scheduled to fly about 2 hours and 45 minutes earlier, but it will take a while for the data and images to arrive here on Earth, because it has to be relayed from Ingenuity to the Perseverance rover, then up to the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter satellite when it passes overhead, and then the data will be packaged up and transmitted the 287 million kilometers back to Earth, which takes about 16 minutes due to the limitation of the speed of light. Interplanetary throughput rates for data are also quite slow, so data from other planets takes a while to get here. Ingenuity will ascend to about nope, that's not the right one. Ingenuity will ascend to about 3 meters, or 9 feet, 10 feet, hover for 20 seconds, then descend back down. Remember that Mars's atmosphere is only about 1% as dense as Earth's atmosphere at sea level. That's equivalent to about 100,000 feet of altitude here on Earth, or more than 3 times the height of Mount Everest. And the altitude record for a helicopter on Earth is only 41,000 feet. So it gives you a sense of the challenge that the JPL engineers had in designing Ingenuity. Making a helicopter light enough with rotors that can generate enough lift in such a rarefied atmosphere was not easy and took years of effort to develop. I think the development cost of Ingenuity was something like $80 million, something like that. Significant. If successful, this will be the first powered controlled flight on another planet. Then on Tuesday, 4/20, a date surely not lost on meme lord and master troll Elon Musk, SpaceX might be launching their Starship SN15 test vehicle. As you may recall, the previous Starship launch, SN11, ended prematurely when an engine fire fried the avionics and caused an excess of fuel in the combustion chamber, which resulted in the rocket exploding in midair, though nobody could see it because of the thick fog that blanketed the area. As with all Starship launches, the date and time are subject to change, so stay tuned. The two main indications of an upcoming launch attempt are the presence of a TFR, or temporary flight restriction, from the FAA, and a Cameron County, Texas road closure warning, because they have to close the roads down in order to launch. Whenever Starship launches, I will have a stream for you right here. Then on Thursday, April 22nd, at the wee hour of 1 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Eastern, 0500 GMT, begins a 31-hour marathon coverage of the SpaceX Crew Dragon Crew-2 mission carrying Expedition 65 astronauts Shane Kimbrough, K. Megan MacArthur, Akihiko Hoshide of Japan, and Thomas Pesquet Pesquet? I'm not sure. Of France. I can't pronounce French words. I can pronounce a lot of words, but I can't pronounce French words. Of France to the International Space Station. I'll be streaming the whole thing for you right here on Raw Space. I'll start with an hour of live Q&A with me. Not sure how many people will be tuned in at 1 in the morning my time, but I'll do it anyway, followed by NASA and SpaceX coverage. I may pop in from time to time during lulls in the broadcast to summarize and answer more questions. The actual launch is scheduled for 6:11 a.m. Eastern, 10:11 GMT. At 11 a.m. Eastern, 1500 GMT, there will be a live event with the crew on board, not the Crew-2 crew, but the ISS crew on board the space station in observance of Earth Day, which happens to fall on April 22nd every year. After the long ride up, docking happens the following day, Friday, at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, 09:30 GMT, and the hatch opening is about 2 hours after that. And then 30 minutes later is the welcome ceremony, which will close out the broadcast. Let's see. So that's the upcoming stuff for this week. I would also like to take the time to offer a hearty thanks and welcome to new channel members, Rostronauts Alan Buckley, XZenoRaptor, and Kamper News Network, as well as Rothling's Geraldine Braun and Kris Trottier, or Trottier. If I mispronounced any of your names, please let me know in the chat. I think that getting people's names correct is important, because that's how they identify themselves. On a personal note, I'm settling in pretty well in the new house. Obviously, I don't have my studio set up, nice and pretty behind me. I've just got some random plushies and paraphernalia sitting behind me, but at some point I'll design build out the studio and make it look a little more polished and professional. But that probably won't be for some time yet, because I've got a lot of consideration to do. Also, my old house, because I moved into the new house prior to listing the old house. The old house has been listed for sale, and so that the open house and showings are happening this weekend. So I'm anticipating going under contract for sale of the old house within the next day or so, which is exciting, because once I get because of the crazy real estate market, home prices are quite high right now. Once I get the money from that, I'll be able to make some improvements to the new house and, pay off some debts and things like that. So questions. Let's get to it. First of all, thank you to Chris V for compiling these questions. All right, Geraldine Braun. And by the way, please let me know if it is Braun or Brown. I know spellings have... Space Kitten, I see your comment at the bottom there. Thank you for the reminder. I will do that before I sign off today. Geraldine Braun. Thank you for the shout out, buddy. Oh, I made her Sunday happier. Sure thing. I actually saw that comment earlier. I was going to give you a dab emoji, but I think I was speaking at the time. Rockin' Robbins 13. What does the contract with SpaceX mean for the other companies making landers, like Dynetics? I think it's my understanding of the plan for the Artemis program that there be more than one available landing system, more than one available HLS. So I don't think that SpaceX winning the contract means that Blue Origin and Dynetics and anyone else who might be who might have been in the running is out. I could be mistaken, but I think the plan is for there to be more than one landing system. But I don't know if that means, that Blue Origin would also be eligible for $2.9 billion, as well as Dynetics. I don't know, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. The unfolding of Artemis is slow, but also, not entirely predictable. I mean, like in the posting from NASA describing the transfer of astronauts from Orion directly to Starship, nowhere in there did they mention the lunar gateway that they've been talking about for years. So I don't know if the gateway is out now. I need to do some more research to see if that has been, determined officially and published. But Mark Desire, I wonder if Blue Origin will slow down their development of the New Glenn now that SpaceX is storming ahead. Well, I mean, Blue Origin has been very quick to build ground infrastructure for, for their engine and rocket building efforts. I mean, they're working on their BE-4 engines in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're working on the New Glenn over at in their facilities at Kennedy Space Center. But I don't think there's any actual New Glenn hardware manufactured yet. But if there is, they're not public with it, so we we're not sure. But they definitely have the facilities, the launch pad, the assembly buildings. That they've been hard at work building infrastructure. As for whether they'll slow down, I don't think that they will alter their pace in any particular way because of anything that's going on with SpaceX. I think they'll forge ahead at their gradatum ferocitor pace, and hopefully, within a few years here, we'll see a New Glenn rocket on the launch pad. It'll be exciting. Now, bear in mind that New Glenn is not fully reusable like Starship will be. New Glenn, the first stage, will be reusable. It will land like a big version of a Falcon 9, but the upper stage will be discarded, like all upper stages currently are, just like the Falcon 9. Dog, can we get an update on Ingenuity? I believe that's been covered. If I overlooked anything, please let me know. Geraldine Braun, I wonder if within the next 15 years we will be considering using the ISS as not only a science lab, but a staging point for moon hops. It's true that it is easier to execute delta V in space rather than from the surface of a gravity well. They don't call it a gravity well for nothing. It's difficult to get off of the Earth. Once you're in space, you need much less fuel and much less energy expenditure to achieve your delta V, or change in velocity, which is rocket speak for altering your trajectory in order to either go higher, go lower, deorbit, go to the moon, whatever, go to Mars. Could be. Any sort of depot in space where you can stop and regroup or whatever is, potentially useful. I mean, like with the Apollo missions, they orbited the Earth prior to executing their translunar injection maneuver in order to, float on over to the moon. But I believe that was, I don't have the numbers on the tip of my tongue, but I believe that was a higher and more elongated orbit than like the ISS, which orbits quite low and very, very circular. Rockin' Robbins 13, now SpaceX has contracts for Lunar Starship to land on the moon and Falcon Heavy to build the Lunar Gateway. Which is interesting because in NASA's article, or in NASA's press release regarding the choosing of SpaceX for the HLS, they did not mention a Lunar Gateway. So I don't know, it's confusing. The gateway is very confusing, especially, yeah. So is this putting too many eggs in a single basket? He asks. I don't think so. Not for SpaceX. I mean, they are the world's either busiest or second busiest launch provider. Besides the Chinese launch agency. In any given in any given year, it's either China or SpaceX with the most launches. Granted, a lot of SpaceX's launches are not for customers; they are internal launches for Starlink internet. But they're still a prolific commercial launcher, and I don't think too many eggs are in one basket. They have their eggs pretty well distributed. MVM Motovlog Music. Would you rather fly down on New Shepard or on the capsule? Do you mean on the New Shepard booster or in the crew capsule? I mean, if I were on the booster, I would die. because it goes to space and I can't breathe up there. Also, you know, the heat of re-entry, even though it's only re-entering the atmosphere at approximately 700 miles per hour versus the 3,500 miles per hour that's experienced by a Falcon 9 first stage booster, it's still pretty significant, you know, speed and friction, whatever, forces, compression, heating that happens. But I think it would be fun to ride New Shepard. I mean, to ride in the capsule, safe and sound, in the pressurized capsule with those big windows. I do not think that I would be able to afford the flight, but if they wanted to send me, I certainly wouldn't say no. Rockin' Robbins 13. Doesn't Lunar Gateway make sense only if you hang a dozen Dynetics, completely reusable landers, on it for more agility than Lunar Starship? Good question. So I'm not familiar with the Dynetics lander design, but as you say, if they're completely reusable, well, Starship is reusable, but it is a big, bulky beast. And whenever landing on even a small gravity well, such as the moon, with, what, 1/6 Earth's gravity, you know, it still uses more fuel than a small lander would in order to both land smoothly and to take off again. But, yeah, I think what makes the most sense is to have multiple options, you know. And I mean, Apollo was sort of a one-trick pony. You know, they designed from top to bottom. They designed everything in the Apollo program for single use, single purpose. Well, I mean, they, you know, the various parts of the various component craft in the Apollo system, you know, performed more than one role. But yeah, like for example, the you know, the command and service module, you know, they rode it to the moon. It continued orbiting the moon while the lander landed. The ascent stage came up, docked again with the command and service module. But in any case, yeah, theoretically it does make more sense, but whereas Dynetics with the development process of their landing system, I personally don't know, but we shall see. Sam Valashek says he's pretty sure Bob and Doug were carried out in stretchers. That is not surprising. Mobile Armored Strike Command. According to what I read, the decommission year for ISS is 2025. So, NASA is in the process of installing, I should say, yeah, of installing new, so rather, not new, but enhancements to the solar arrays on the ISS. They're not replacing the existing old solar arrays, but they're adding to them, which will increase the power output of the solar arrays by something like 33%. And they wouldn't be going through that effort and expense if they were planning to deorbit the ISS in 4 years. Now, nobody really knows. I mean, like with any contracts or contract extensions or whatever, it's like the Mars exploration rovers. You know, they were designed for, what, 3 months, you know, of operations on them, on Mars, and they lasted for years and years. You know, nobody really knows what will happen with ISS after the current contract period expires, whether it's handed over to a private entity or some sort of public-private partnership or an international consortium, or whether the contract will be extended, you know, whether its purpose will shift from science operations and international contractual obligations to something else, space tourism. Nobody really knows. But I think it's unlikely that the ISS will be deorbited in the next few years. They're putting, too much effort into continuing to improve and expand it. Well, not expand it, but actually, yes, expand it. They've been bringing up there's actually a new Russian module which will be launched within the next couple of months that will replace one of the original Russian modules from 20 years ago. Mark Deser, why not simply use the old Sea Dragon design? That was a project that went nowhere, but it was an interesting design. Jumping topics here. Mark Deser, indeed, but the surface gravity of about 40% of Earth's, that is on Mars, surely helps the Ingenuity? Yes. So 40% Earth gravity, 1% Earth atmosphere. Still a challenging situation. So in testing, I mean, they can model stuff all day long, but as far as testing, the Ingenuity helicopter design was very tricky because they can simulate the Martian atmosphere in vacuum chambers here on Earth, but they can't simulate Martian gravity. And so they have to take all those calculations into account, of the differences in gravity. Fortunately, we have a very good handle on gravity. Maybe not what makes it tick, but what its effects are and how much there is. So, and now that it's completed, now that Ingenuity has completed its high-speed spin-up test successfully, hopefully tomorrow morning we'll see its first flight. Oh my. MVM Motovlog Music regarding the pronunciation of the French ESA astronaut's name, Thomas Pesquet. Good heavens. Okay. Thank you. Mark Deser, suppose some of the starships don't lift off the moon, but stay there as sort of a lunar base. That's a possibility, although interesting idea. Would it be cheaper to build starships to land on the moon and stay there as base components, rather than building starships to deliver base components to the moon? That's an interesting question. Probably, Starship is designed as a rocket, so it's not really designed to sit there and be a base of operations. There's a lot of internal space taken up by the fuel tanks, et cetera, that, wouldn't be useful. It would be wasted space if it were just sitting on the surface of the moon, not being used to launch things or cart things around in space. But in any case, even if it's used just for a long stay on the moon, it's much roomier than the craft that we had to use in the past. Slim Pickens, Ra, can you explain Gateway? So the Lunar Gateway, or LOP-G, Lunar Orbiting Platform Gateway, terrible acronym, it doesn't make any sense, but Gateway is a nice, easy name for it, is sort of a mini space station that's intended to, I'm not sure if the plan is to orbit it at the Earth-Moon Lagrange point, like sort of balanced in between the two bodies, or rather to, orbit it around the moon itself. But the plan is to have basically a small mini space station that's not permanently manned, that craft can dock to, and then take other landing craft down to the surface of the moon. Which is why I was confused earlier, because in SpaceX, in NASA's announcement regarding the choosing of SpaceX for the human landing system, they did not mention a gateway. They said that the astronauts would transfer from Orion, which is the crew capsule on top of the SLS rocket, to Starship. So, again, we'll have to wait and see what actually happens, or for some clarification, because I for one am confused about gateway. Ian Pedlar, SpaceX were going to the moon anyway. Is this an attempt to slow them down? Let's put on our tinfoil hats. You know what? I should make a tinfoil hat just for such occasions. No, I don't think this is an attempt to slow down SpaceX. I think it's an attempt by NASA to make the best use of the resources that are available. And one resource that's available is that SpaceX is deep in the process of developing a very capable and versatile space vehicle called Starship. And, you know, I mean, it would be that you know, if a vehicle that is being developed, currently being developed and having test flights and prototypes built and things like that, is expected to have the capability of both docking with another craft or with a station and landing on the moon and launching from the moon, it would be foolish not to give that craft a shot. So, you know, I think NASA made the only decision that made sense, given given SpaceX's progress in the development of Starship. Sam Volish, by the way, Ian, I was not attempting to dig at you. I was just kidding. Anyway, Sam Volashek, unless NASA can get another $3 billion for Blue Origin, total $5 billion, or another $5 billion, total $8.5 billion for Dynetics from Congress, they're pretty much out of the question for HLS systems. That is assuming that the different the different HLS contracts would be for the same amount. So I don't know. You know, I don't pore over NASA government contracts or whatever. I'm not. I don't enjoy going down that rabbit hole, but I'll try to do some more reading, see if I can find some more specific information on what this means for Blue Origin, what it means for Dynetics, what it means for the gateway, and if I find that info, and if you have any info, please go ahead and let me know. Discord is probably the best place for that, and I'll put a link to Discord in the chat right now. Because the chat here disappears, and we won't, you know, especially if I have to edit anything out because of copyright or whatever. So the chat here is transient, whereas Discord is persistent. Dig nuts. Actually, do modular space stations even make sense when Starship basically is Skylab on crack? If Skylab could launch itself, Skylab was simple and elegant and roomy. Starship has the volume of ISS. Why in 2021 go modular? We don't need to. Well, the plan for Artemis, up until now anyway, has been for the launch craft to dock with the gateway, and then for a different craft, the lander craft, the HLS, to land on the moon and then ascend back up to the gateway. But as far as a modular space station, I mean, modularity in principle is very advantageous, especially in space, because stuff is expensive to launch into space, and if a spacecraft or a space station is modular in nature, then parts can be replaced, they can be swapped out. You can bring up a section at a time and expand as needed. So it's the modularity paradigm has worked very well for ISS. It also worked for, the Mir space station while it was up there. So if they do build Gateway, then I would say, it would need to be modular, sort of by definition, because it's going to be larger than a single Starship. But because Starship has a huge volume, but remember the spaces in the ISS are sort of long and narrow. They have some sort of larger modules that you can do backflips in and stuff, but there are not large open volumes, not very many large open volumes in the space station, whereas Starship is huge, and I don't remember how many meters wide it is, but it's quite large. And it actually shocked me to learn that it's expected to have the same equivalent volume as the ISS. But how that's divvied up amongst the different cabins and the different functions of the craft remains to be seen. But wait and see should be my motto. It's not a very fun motto, so I won't make it my motto. But wait and see is really what we have to do with all these systems, because we don't know how they're going to play out. But it's exciting to see it unfold in any case. Astro Mint. Did you read about Roscosmos' decision to quit the ISS after 2025? What do you think about it? It's not terribly surprising, especially with the SpaceX launch capability and the upcoming Boeing Starliner capability that will hopefully work. I had not read about that. It's interesting news. It's not terribly surprising. I mean, I don't have any personal knowledge of the sort of politics of the Russian space program, and the finances that, like the Russian financial situation, how well or not well they're doing. But I think that if the Russians were to quit the ISS, I guess the question would be what would happen with the Russian half of the space station, because those modules, they need maintenance, they need a crew to tend to them, and would, American, European, Japanese astronauts pick up that slack, or would cosmonauts continue to ride up, just not on Soyuz? But if Roscosmos pulls out, then I guess not. I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. Would the Russian portion of the space? I mean, they wouldn't be able to detach and deorbit the Russian half of the space station, because that's where half their power comes from. Because the truss structure runs along the spine of the space station, which spans both the American, European, and Russian modules. So, interesting. Maybe it could be turned over to a private entity. Like I said, some sort of public-private hybrid. DKS 13827. Q. How are we going to go to Mars? The radiation problem is huge. They don't know how to handle that. Well, we certainly know some ways in which the radiation challenge could be mitigated. So the main radiation issues, I mean, aside from, once you get to Mars, obviously when you're in deep space, in between planets, you're exposed to a lot of solar and cosmic radiation. But once you get to Mars, you're still exposed to an awful lot of radiation because, number one, the Martian atmosphere is very thin, and number two, and perhaps most importantly, Mars doesn't have a global magnetosphere to deflect the, because of it doesn't have the same sort of spinning molten iron core that we have, at least in such a way that it produces a global magnetosphere. So it can't, that the magnetic field of Mars, it's in pockets, whatever, in clumps, and it can't deflect, the flood of solar radiation away from the surface, like Earth's does. Now, that is a problem, but it can certainly be mitigated by building, well, the easiest way would be to build underground on Mars, to build basically habitats in caverns rather than on the surface in domes. Caverns, caves, tunnels, lava tubes even. And, because the surface regolith of however many meters are above your head would absorb all of the incoming radiation, and you'd be quite well protected from it. But, it's not maybe very scenic to live underground. Probably pretty bleak, but that's certainly a way that you can, mitigate the radiation risk. Now, getting there, you can use water tanks, water is very good at absorbing solar radiation, and you could use water tanks on the sunward side of the craft to sort of mop up the solar radiation before it has a chance to hit the crew. And whether, to the extent to which that would cause the water to become irradiated and undrinkable, I'm not entirely sure whether the water would need to be scrubbed or anything like that. But those are very important questions that have been on the table and being considered for a long time. But I think we're not there yet. We're still a long ways off from any manned Mars missions, human Mars missions. In any case, Maria Kutujan, do you believe that only scientists will be the travelers to the moon and probably to Mars? Will ordinary people have the mental capacity to be outside the Earth's environment? I think ordinary people certainly have the mental capacity. Not everyone is physically fit enough to go to space. People have heart conditions and they're overweight and some people may not be psychologically conditioned for the rigors of spaceflight, because spaceflight is tough. It's tough on the body, it's tough on the mind. And bear in mind, the crew on the ISS, astronauts and cosmonauts who spend months in space, or an extended period of time in space, they exercise for 2 hours a day at least on the space station. All of them do. Just to try to mitigate the bone loss and the bone density loss and the muscle loss that happens due to zero gravity. Zero gravity is very bad for the human body. It may be fun to float around, but over extended periods of time, like weeks and months, it can really do a number on the human body. We're not designed for it. We're not evolved for it. So, and if anyone thinks that over time we might become evolved for it, that's not really how evolution works. There would have to be some sort of selection pressure whereby people who were better suited for life in zero gravity were more successful at producing offspring than those who were not, and I don't really foresee that happening. But Rockin' Robin's 13, after Vulcan kills Blue Origin, that's a big if, but after Vulcan kills Blue Origin, will ULA buy the rocket motor manufacturing plant of Blue Origin, part of Blue Origin? Okay, so he's referring to the BE-4 engine. So Blue Origin's BE-4 engine is a big boy that will serve as the thruster for both, or the source of propulsion for both the New Glenn rocket, which is Blue Origin's big rocket that they're supposedly working on, and as well as the ULA Vulcan rocket, also currently in development. Now, Rockin' Robbins expects that Vulcan will kill Blue Origin, and I'm not sure what the reasoning is there. But, I mean, ULA will be a customer of Blue Origin. They'll be buying BE-4 engines from them. And the BE-4 engine will be used both for Blue Origin's customers' rockets as well as for their own rockets. So I'm not sure why you would think that ULA buying BE-4 engines would cause Blue Origin to die, or for that division of Blue Origin to be split off. But if it did, okay. More to the point, does Vulcan make New Glenn just obsolete? I haven't really been following the Vulcan project. Is it another monster rocket like New Glenn? Because New Glenn is a biggie. I mean, it's near the size of, I don't remember whether it's a little bigger or a little smaller, but it's close to the size of the Saturn V, and has a huge launch capacity. But wow, a lot of chat. Okay, so does Rocket A make Rocket B obsolete? I mean, I don't think so. Does a Chevy make a Ford obsolete? Maybe I'm just a filthy capitalist, but I don't think that choice is a bad thing. If there are two launch vehicles that perform even similar functions from two different companies, even using common parts, I don't think that's detrimental to the industry as a whole. Competition is good. Let's see. Jerem15 Lollipop. How did you create your own brand of becoming a YouTuber, Raw Space? Well, the channel started back in January 2017, basically as a place where I could dump videos of Apollo footage, Apollo 11 launch and landing and stuff like that. And so I uploaded these videos because I had them. I thought they were cool. I wanted to share them. And I basically forgot about the channel for a few months. And some months later, I remembered it. I was like, oh yeah, I've got that space channel. And I saw that I had a few hundred subscribers. And I was like, really? And the Apollo 11 launch broadcast from the video of the launch broadcast had like a couple 100,000 views, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. I had no idea that people were actually watching this. And so I became aware that there was an interest in this kind of stuff. And so I kind of experimented from there. I mean, I tried uploading some videos. I started streaming. My first stream was Starman, actually. And it was a cleaned up replay of Starman, which then became the Starman 24/7, Starman's Cosmic Journey stream that continues to stream on this channel 3+ years later. As well as, and then my first actual live stream was a lunar eclipse back in 2018, and it just went on from there. More live streams. I started doing SpaceWeek at first as an edited, scripted, and uploaded video, but after a while that became too difficult to do because I was spending like 15 hours on Sunday editing this video, this like 10 or 15 minute video, and it was burning me out. I was like burned out because I'm already a fairly busy dude, single dad, full-time job, house to maintain, etc., etc. And so it was either scrap SpaceWeek altogether or do it live, where I don't need to do all that editing. I still need to prepare, but I don't need to do all the editing, which takes a huge amount of time. And so that's what I did. I changed SpaceWeek to this weekly live format, and I've been loving it because it also gives me the chance to answer questions from the viewers, which is awesome. Astro Mint, what will be ULA's future at this point? Survive on government contracts and occasionally commercial flights? Well, they'll have to remain competitive, because, like for example, Delta IV Heavy cost upwards of $350 million to launch. Like one of those National Reconnaissance Office launches on Delta IV Heavy, it's a third of $1 billion to launch that sucker. And that is incredibly expensive, considering that the cost of a Falcon Heavy is less than a third of that. So yeah, ULA will have to evolve, but the flight, the flight characteristics and capabilities of the different rockets they do vary. Like, I don't know, for example, let's see, what was the last? Okay, so we've had three or four Falcon Heavy launches so far. There was a Starman, there was Arabsat, there was, gosh, I don't remember what the third one was, but in any case, yeah. So different rockets for different purposes, but you do still need to be responsive to the changes in market realities. Like, for example, Roscosmos charging, $70 million per seat on the Soyuz or whatever it is for crew launches, whereas SpaceX can do it for half that or whatever. So yeah, I mean they'll either evolve or die like any company. But I mean ULA is not going anywhere. But meaning they're not going to die. But they will definitely have to be. Now, with that said, it is not purely market forces that drive the space industry. There's a lot of government rigmarole, cost plus contracts and pork barrel spending and vested interests and yada yada. A bunch of political garbo that infests the space business because the biggest customer of launch providers is the government, and the government is full of, it has all sorts of ways to both waste money and keep entities alive that maybe shouldn't be. But it's good that we have some lower cost, increased reusability options on the table now. And I think that'll help the industry as a whole, even if it means some painful changes on the part of some of the old guard. Rockin' Robin says, Vulcan's Centaur upper stage renders New Glenn obsolete and endangers even Falcon Heavy. So, let's see. Vulcan rocket. Let's see if Wikipedia has an estimated launch cost. Cost per launch. Okay. Well, that's a big range. So according to Wikipedia, take the accuracy of this information as you will, but approximate cost of launching Vulcan Centaur between $82 and $200 million for Vulcan Centaur Heavy. Capacity to low Earth orbit, 60,000 pounds or 27,200 kilograms. Now if we go to Falcon Heavy capacity is, so that was 60,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. Falcon Heavy has the capacity of launching 140,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. And yeah, so I don't think that for, I mean, now Falcon Heavy hasn't, like, there haven't been very many Falcon Heavy launches because there hasn't been the need for very heavy, to deliver very heavy payloads very often. You know, the trend in satellites for a while now has been smaller, not bigger. So that's why we've seen a proliferation of smaller launch vehicles like Electron and CubeSats and small sats, microsats, nanosats, you know, being spread all over the place in orbit, because if you can perform a few functions with a small satellite that's relatively cheap to develop, that's preferable to, you know, launching a all or nothing behemoth. That's what the NRO does, is they launch the billion-dollar mega satellites. But yeah, Vulcan versus New Glenn versus Falcon Heavy is an interesting discussion. Geraldine Braun. I love Starman's music. It puts me to sleep every time. I have used it to sleep a number of times myself. Thank you. I try to find some nice music. I'd like to have a wider selection. I'd like to have, you know, some like more up tempo, trancey EDM, dubstep, even like, you know, rock music or whatever. I mean, even heavier stuff. But unfortunately, as a YouTube channel, I'm limited to copyright-free music. Otherwise, my stuff gets copyright claims on it. I have to take content down or remove the music using the YouTube tools, which is a hit or miss. One time, I tried to remove a song from a video on YouTube, and it borked my whole video. Like it basically ruined the video, and I couldn't even access it anymore. Crystallina Bacteria. Who is your favorite astronaut? This question goes to everyone in chat. Well, I can't answer for everyone, but my favorite astronaut, I mean, maybe cliche, but I mean, Buzz Aldrin's a pretty cool one. I give mad props to anybody who will punch a conspiracy theorist in the face for confronting them. But so yeah, maybe number one, Buzz. Christina Koch is right up there. She's an amazing sort of contemporary astronaut. You know, there's a lot. I mean, I'm not big on celebrity, but you know, I'm more mission oriented than person oriented. But yeah. All right. Let's see. Chris Hadfield, good choice. Kate Rubins with the crazy hair. We need to get a long-haired dude up there on the space station. They're all like buzz cut, you know, military style. We need to get a hippie up there with some long hair. I am a bad, evil, naughty zoot indeed. I'm back, and deepest apologies to our beloved moderator and friend, Space Kitten. I promised her that I would do something, and I have failed to do it, and therefore I will do it right now. So, where is that thing? Hold on. Okay, so, oh, this is all taped up. You know what? I need my tools. Fingernail clippers. So, a while back, Space Kitten started working on a Nordic-themed protection box, or little storage box. And I took a liking to it, not only because it was a handcrafted masterpiece from our very own Space Kitten, but also because the bulk of my heritage and ancestry is from Norway. So So I went ahead and commissioned her to finish it. So here we have all gift wrapped and everything, with a very kind note on it. Oh, happy birthday! That was back in March. Space Kitten 33. You can see right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do an unboxing of this thingy. I need scissors. Okay. These are very curly. You can't see it. These are very curly. So, let's see here. Yeah, see the camera's aimed at my face, but the box, gotta hold it up. No, she put a lot of work into this, and she was very communicative and, you know, messaging me back and forth about my, sorry about the noise, about what I wanted and you know, her progress and so on. So she really puts her heart into this stuff, and I'm not gonna do like one of those iPhone fail videos where they open the box and the thing pops out and falls to the ground. I'll be more careful than that. But once I get my studio set up, this will be on prominent display behind me on the wall or on a shelf. Oops, it's taped on the other sides too. Should have grabbed my knife rather than the scissors. These are some dinky kid scissors. There we go. Okay. Let my people go. Wow, it's really got a air suction on there. Oh, there was a little bit of tape holding on. Okay, here we go. This box does not want to be opened. There we go. Nice. I can smell that wood varnish. Check this out. You know what? Let me take off this silly live Q&A. Look at this. Hand-carved, wood-burned, gilded, with all sorts of symbolism, Nordic designs. She'd be able to tell you better than I what some of these markings and symbols mean, but very cool. Look at that. Wolf. Very cool, Space Kitten. Thank you so much. I love it. Oop, Bennu getting in the way. Bravo. Mjolnir. Mjolnir the Hammer. I actually have a mini Mjolnir that on a necklace that I have around here somewhere. And so, okay. Okay, alright. Hinged. So, hinge on it. And this is just packing material, so yeah. You can put all sorts of things in there. Very nice. I love it very much. Thank you. And I'm sorry I kept forgetting to unbox it because on my live stream because, well, because I'm a forgetful punk is really why. Oh, there's a magnet in there. I feel there is a magnet. I even see the magnet. Yep. There's a magnet that holds the lid shut. It helps it stay shut. That is a clever design feature. Very cool. All right. So anyway, that will wrap it up for this week. And thank you again, Space Kitten, and everyone here for sticking around. Until next time, take care.